Alright, well, welcome back again. This is Hard Jim here, and today I'm going to be reviewing Final Fantasy Echoes of Time. Now, I just beat this game yesterday, so everything's pretty well fresh in my head. I'm not going to review everything about the story. There will be some spoilers, so if you don't want to ruin some parts of the game, I wouldn't be watching this. I'll kind of give a bit of heads up what I'm going to be talking about. So if you haven't gotten there yet, then just, I wouldn't watch that part. But chances are, or if you're thinking of getting this game, I'd be careful watching this because I don't want to ruin stuff for you guys, but just keep your guard up because I will be saying the final boss. I will be talking about him. So if you don't want to hear that at the end, I would just leave. But I won't say how to beat it, even though it's really easy. But so okay, let's start with the game. So the game starts off with some random girl, like a white-haired girl, being chased by some evil-looking bald dude. And she trips. She gets captured. No, she screams, the guy goes, ha 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 ha, and it skips to you waking up. No, so, if you haven't played this game or something, you're probably wondering who's the main character. Well, it's completely up to you. What I liked about this game is that you got to choose between a bunch of characters. I think it's better off just showing you the back of the case here. So, these are the characters here. You can either be the boy or girl to this clan. Sorry, I'm not really sure of the race, but you can be the boy or girl. They're pretty much just the humans. And they're pretty much good with sword, that kind of stuff. Then you have these other humans here, those two there. Sorry if this is hard to see. I'll post this for real. So, you have to choose between these two girls. The boy or girl of this clan. They're better off with like ranged weapons, a bow and arrow, and they have like these aura staff things, shooters. But I didn't even use those. I kind of like the idea of bow. The other stuff is more of a magic staff, so I just went with bow. And they're interesting because they're quicker and they're able to double jump. And no, double jumps are pretty incredible because I pretty much beat the half of the last level just by doing a double jump to the door to the final level. Yeah, I'll talk a little more about that later. Then you get to choose from these weird looking freaks with the helmets. So those guys in the helmets, they're more of a magic weapon, so staff, naturally. They're better off at casting spells. You can choose between boy or girl, which is cool. And then you have the shortest people. I was trying to show you on this book, but I'll just post some pictures during this. They're small, but they are actually powerful. They can use either heavy hammers or spears. But note, any character can use any weapon. Note that. But they're better off using that certain weapon. They're better off using spears or hammers. The healers are better off using sword or small axes. The weird guy with the helmet, they're better off using staff. And the blue-haired girl and guy, they're better off using bow or the aura shooters. So, after you choose your character, I went with just the basic blue-haired guy because I like using swords, so that's who I picked. So, because I didn't know the other character could use other weapons, I just figured they were all able to use a certain weapon. If not, I would have went with the people who can double jump. But I didn't know they could do that till partway through the story. Almost at the end, pretty much. So the game starts of you waking up. And it's your coming of age ceremony, so you have to talk to a bunch of people, then head into the forest and start your ceremony. You talk to a few people, but I'm not going to say who and ruin the story. So, after you talk to the people, if you even have to, save and go into the forest. Now, you'll see these crystals. These purple crystals, walk up, that's how you save. Not that hard. If you can't figure it out, I think it tells you in the book. So, you go through the first part of the game, so in the forest. Now, when I first got this game a little while ago, I was excited because the first Crystal Chronicle Final Fantasy game was pretty good. You know, dungeon crawler, walk through, slash your sword. First dungeon, it was a dungeon crawler Final Fantasy, which I like going to dungeons. Not like I don't mind going, you know, hitting an attack and your character attacks or use a skill, because those are pretty challenging. But I just like going in, just slashing away. So when I first got this game, I was right into it. I was having fun. Creatures were difficult. Not really difficult, it was all new to you, so you're kind of learning all your basics. I like how, like, if you're a flying enemy, you can jump and grab onto them and start stabbing them in the butt. But note that, well, if somebody grabs you, you're going to punch them back. So note that grabbing them like that, enemies are pretty quick, so they can just knock you right off. You can also jump on enemies' heads and then start pounding away at their head. And note that if somebody jumps on your back, you're going to throw them off as well. So if they're on your back, most enemies have either a stunning attack, or they'll throw you off, or some way to get you off their back. But if I had to jump on their back or grabbing their legs, I would jump on their back. Because it's a lot easier way to kill them. And you also have your frontal slashings. And of course you can jump attack, so you jump, you slash, and if you hold down the A button, your attack button, you'll slash again, but kind of doing, you know, the Legend of Zelda Link thing where he goes down with the sword. You'll also do that. So you slash, then come down. Well, with the sword anyways. I'm not really sure how you fight with the other guys, but that's with the guy with the sword. So, you travel through, it's all interesting, it's all new. Because I haven't played the Crystal Chronicles since it came out, and I rented it at a Jumbo Video in Port Colborne. So, from that game, I realized they're really fun, so I was all excited. When I seen, well, I'll get to the part I hate in a little bit. But, so you play through, and you come to the boss. So, you go through a few trials, you know, a few puzzles, easy puzzles, nothing really too difficult. You should be able to figure the first parts out. Pretty much all the puzzles are pretty easy. There's a few I had problems with, and when I figured them out, I was like, that's just stupid. I'll say those in a little bit. So, you travel through and beat all the dudes that you beat, and you get to the boss. So, yeah, they do have bosses. They're pretty difficult. Well, no, why am I saying they're difficult? They're easy as hell. Now, I'm not sure what setting I had on. I think I had it just on the normal setting. But they were easy. But, so I reached the first boss, and I'm like, well, I beat it pretty quickly, and I'm like, solo, and I'm like, well, I think you have to beat the first boss solo anyways, because it's your coming of age. So, of course, they can't really have it too hard, but they couldn't have it incredibly easy either. So, I beat it, you know what, I'm not going to think anything bad of it. So I just waited by and beat him. So you get to the cutscene where you meet the lovely and enchanting, where the hell is she? Charlotta. I'm trying to hide the bad guy. So you meet Charlotta. And so Charlotta shows up. She's in front of this big giant crystal, which you see there on the cover and that kind of stuff. In the end, you realize that's called the crystal core. Right? We're putting us like 30-40 minutes into the game after we beat this. So, she says, good job, you graduated, I don't have much to give you, but she hands you a crystal. You take the crystal, and you go back to town, and it turns out one of your childhood friends is sick with something they call the crystal sickness or something like that, which is both a curse and a blessing. It will kill you if not treated, but after you have it, you're pretty much invulnerable to any poison or anything like that, any sicknesses. So you can't get a common cold and that kind of stuff. But for some reason you can get poisoned by monsters. But, whatever. So you slowly end up learning that the hero, James, well, James was me, because that was the hero, so I put James for that guy. But you realize shortly that the hero you picked ended up having a crystal illness and blah blah blah, which still bugs me why he kept on getting poisoned. But anyways, so your mission is to, because nobody's allowed to leave town, which you'll realize why in the future. So, but I won't say why, but you'll realize why in the future, why they can't leave town. So only Charlotta and you can leave town. But since Charlotta's taking care of the girl who's sick, you leave town. So you go to the next town, and for some reason, instead of giving it a name, they just call it town. So you get to the town, you can do some shopping if you want, and look around. But your main goal is to go to the library. Surprisingly, yeah. So you go to the library and talk to some bald guy. Right away, you know he's evil. Just by looking at him, you know he's evil. But you're just supposed to play stupid and go along. So he tells you to go to the Ice Mountain and Fire Mountain. So, and do some sort of stuff there. So you go, you do what you have to do. You activate the triggers, you activate it, and come back. The missions are pretty easy. Enemies are pretty simple. The bosses were not that hard. I kind of forget the bosses now. I think the first one was like a frog and at the Ice Temple. No, I don't think there was a boss at the Ice Temple. At Mountain, the first time. But there's a boss at the fireplace, which is like a giant, like, spider or something. So, oh wait, sorry, I kind of jumped ahead. So you talk to the bald guy. He said, "Did you do something for me?" Well, if I help you, you help me. Pretty simple stuff, right? So of course the hero agrees. He tells you you need a certain horn from an enemy in order to make the potion to heal your friend. So you go to the sewers and you get the item. You go to the sewers. You solve the puzzle. Pretty simple, not that hard. Solve the puzzle. Kill the boss. Easy, by the way. Shouldn't really have a problem with it. Go back to the guy. He makes you the potion. He says, "Oh, good job. I just made what you need. Here you go. Now go give it to him. Go give it to your friend, and just take a break. Come back tomorrow." So you go back, get the potion. You know, your friend wakes up. You take a nap. Blah blah blah. So you go back, and that's when he tells you to go to Ice and Fire Mountain. You do that. Fight the boss. I'm still not sure if there's a boss in the Ice Mountain. I don't think there is, which is stupid. But yeah, you go to those two places, do what you need to do, come back, and for some reason, well, I kind of blanked on what happens. But you go back, and there's a shortcut scene where surprisingly, the bald guy was evil. And he is the guy who captured that white-haired girl. So, but, of course, you're not supposed to know that. Which is pretty screamingly obvious that they shouldn't have even showed him it in the opening. They should have left it a secret. So that's a little bit of flaw in the game. But whatever. So he's like, yes, yeah, my calculations are correct. He starts laughing, you know, the evil, ha 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 ha, kind of laugh. He opens what he has to do. So everybody in your village disappears. Only like one person remains, and I think even is Charlotta done? Did Charlotta disappear? I forget if she does or not. Or something happens. I think I forget what something happens. Yeah, I mean, so after you do what you have to do with the mountain, I mean, you go back and talk to the guy. He tells you, you did a good job. Thank you for the help. And, go home and rest. So after you do that, he does an evil laugh and says my calculations are correct and yada yada yada. So you go back home, sleep it off. Then another cutscene happens, and it shows him the scene I just said earlier where he laughs and that his calculations were correct, and the tower rises and blah blah blah. So you wake up to realize, Buzz, shut up, that everybody is gone except for a few people. 1 second. You gotta be quiet, Bud. Alright, my bird wouldn't shut up. Alright, so you gotta figure. So everybody's gone, and they kind of have a scene where Charlotte kind of has a heart attack and falls to the ground. Then you come out of your house and you see a cat running away into the forest. So you go to the forest, and small cutscene happens, and you realize the crystal has been destroyed, and you see, for some reason, the girl that you just healed standing there, and she tells you to go find some crystals. Crystals went all over the place. They're probably even in some places where you've been, and pretty much gives you your mission. So you leave and, go back to the sewers, to the Ice Mountain and Fire Mountain. And the sad part was that they didn't have bosses guarding those crystals. They just had a bunch of monsters guarding. Once you beat the monsters, you got the crystals. Kind of boring, kind of stupid. They should have... Of course, they had stronger monsters. Sometimes they had a mixture of monsters. But I wanted a boss. I wanted some boss action. But anyways, you beat them. You get the 3 crystals. Whatever. So you can't advance until you bring those 3 crystals back to the girl. So she says, I'll be waiting here. I don't care how long it takes for the crystals. So you bring the crystals back to her, and she says something about her and a bunch of people used to play in a sewer. Yeah, they played in the sewer or something. So it gives you another mission to get another crystal. I think that's when that happens. Oh no, wait, sorry. She tells you of a place, after you first talk to her, she tells you of a place, a different entrance to the sewer, instead of the one you're just in. The aqueduct. She tells you a different way into there. So then you go get the 3 crystals, bring them back. Sorry, I get kind of ahead of myself with some of this. So you do all that, and pretty much, you go to the new ruin place where they kind of focus on your lightning magic. See, all the places are based on certain magic, so Ice Temple use ice, or ice. The Fire Mountain use fire. Now the ruins use electricity, lightning. So you solve the puzzle, which is a little more not really difficult, just kind of time consuming. And you get a cutscene with one of those helmet looking dudes. And cutscene happens, he turns into a boss, you fight him. Something a little different happens. After you fight the boss, the cutscene's a little weird, but I won't worry about that. I'll let you guys watch this cutscene. He gives you a device that helps you track crystals. So, I don't think I'm going ahead of myself. If I am, I apologize. I'm pretty sure I'm ahead of myself right now. I think you actually have to go... Yeah, I think you do the ruin part first, and then you go after the 3 crystals. I apologize if I got ahead. So, pretty much you just follow the storyline, get what you need, get all the crystals, gather them, bring them back. So, you end up going to this graveyard place. So, after a while, somehow all the villagers are coming back once you bring back all the crystals. And then Charlotta ends up joining you to help with defeating the boss dude, the bald guy. And I think you fight him already. So after you go back after you do what you have to do in the Fire and Ice Mountain. When you go back, you fight him. But yeah, so you follow the missions, blah blah blah. So halfway through the game, or a little more, Charlotta joins you, and you have to get Southland. Then you have to go to the graveyard of Southland, and there is where the part that pissed me off, one of the missions that pissed me off. Like one of the little puzzles. So you have to pull all these coffins and push them in the hole so you have bridges, so you can pull this block. And then there's a little switch. So here's the level you're at. So the platform's here. It lowers and it goes back to where it was. Then there's a platform up here where you just jump to. And there's a little switch back there where you can push the block onto the switch. And there's a switch or on top of the block where you can jump on and just push it down normally. So I was there for like 10 minutes. So I pushed the block into the hole after you figure the puzzle out. And I'm like, okay, how can I do this? And note the room's full of poison. So I keep on going to this. So I'm looking for something to push the box on. But note the room's full of poison, so I keep on going to this jar, which you throw onto a platform, which makes a barrier for you to breathe. So I guess I'm going back there, heal my gods. I'm thinking, what can I use to push the block onto? So instead of running back and forth, I grabbed the jar and ran over to the place. Because the jar will be able to cause a barrier around you for a certain amount of time. So I'm sitting there thinking, what do I do? And I was like, you know what? Just for the hell of it, I'm going to try pushing the box on this jar. Note, the giant, metal box, stone cube, probably weighs about 500, 600, 700 pounds, probably a ton, or something like that. Probably weighs, that's the amount of weight, when somehow you're able to push it. And the jar, take a metal jar, well, probably would not be able to handle that much weight. But whatever, you push the box, it goes on the jar, you throw the jar into, you hit the lever, lower it, to throw the jar in, push the box on, and it works. You raise it back, you just raise it back up, the box is in the air, you jump on top of the platform, pull the box into the hole. That's what you do. I'm going to say that now because it did confuse me. That's why I didn't say spoiler alert. Because I needed to say that because unless there's a different way that I missed, but that's the way I did it. Maybe I did it the wrong way. But that's what it seemed to me, and I was like, what? That's pointless. So, you battle through, you get to the end. Like, you go through a bunch of stuff. You're supposed to find all the pieces to this item, to this magical thing, hammer type thing, I guess you can say, that allows you to go fight the final boss, the final area. So, you go around the world, again, finding all the pieces. So, see, I'm trying not to say too much of the story. So, you go to this place, and I think it's like a mine or something, and you come across this piece of the artifact that looks like a staff. So, what's her name? That girl, what's her name? Blank on her name. Charlotta. She walks up and picks up the staff. She's looking at it, she says some things, and she hears a monster behind her. So, normally, when you get an item that you've been searching for, you're not going to throw it or try to break it in any way. Naturally, right? You just spend a few days, pretend, trying to find this item. Last thing you're going to do is throw it. What does she do? She throws it at the monster. Monster's just walking up the wall, minding his own business, probably not even out of them, just walking around, doing what monsters do. She picks up the staff, she gets scared, and throws it like a spear at the monster. I'm like, what the hell? So instead of just walking out of there, now you gotta fight the monster. So it's like, wait a second. So, you find the staff, you pick up the staff, and instead of walking away, you throw it at a monster. You can cast fucking spells out of your hand. Well, the hero can. Why throw the staff? You were looking for that item. What if it broke? What if you lost it? What if something happened to it? And it made your mission impossible. Why would you throw it? So I'm fighting the boss, and meanwhile I'm thinking, what the hell? Why did she, I barely paid attention to the boss and I beat it. Some sort of gecko, frog type thing. So, you go after the last piece, and boss is kind of forgettable, I think. I can't think of the boss. So now you have everything you need to go through the path that they over the bridge to the temple. But first, you need to go back to the place, to the fire and ice mountain, where you pretty much started off your adventure and helped with the bad guy. They're separate entrances, so don't take the wrong entrance. So, you go back, do what you have to do there, you fight a few more bosses. Now you go to the temple, the tower. So you follow the path to the tower, and all is good. But, enemies are easy still. The enemies don't get harder, they just kind of change their color. And, yeah, they get a little difficult, but it's just pretty much a snore fest. So after a while, I started thinking, when is this game going to end? It just got easy. So, naturally, you get to the boss. And the boss are like two metal spider thingies. Spider robots. And they'll fuck you up. They're not hard. You probably don't die. I didn't even, my characters died. But you have, unlimited amount of healing, revival stuff. You don't need to buy Phoenix Downs. You just cast a rise, and you come back to life. And as long as you have, 4 team members, or even 3, you pretty much can't lose. When one guy dies, you change it to the next guy, cast a rise, you come back to life. You really don't need a magic caster, or a spell caster, or anything like that. I can go in, even a classic warrior can cast spells, so it really didn't matter too much. So, but the bosses are pretty, these guys will fuck you up. what they'll do is they'll cast a slow spell that they'll shoot like these missiles at you that chase you and freaking hit you. They just butt fuck you pretty much, hit you right in the ass, and they'll slow you down and they'll poison you. And well, that's a pain in the ass combination. Because when you're slow, it takes longer to cast a spell. And when you're poisoned, you get damaged every couple seconds. So if you're going to heal yourself, your spells, instead of taking 3 seconds to charge up, they take about 20 seconds. And you lose health every about maybe 5-10 seconds from the poison. So every time you get hit, you stop casting. So if you're going to try to cast and heal yourself, the poison stops you. And to slow down just makes things worse because you're moving super slow. So you're casting slower, so you can't cast your magic. So you're trying to avoid a hit until your slow or poison runs out. Either way, you can still heal yourself once one or the other stops working. So you run around trying to save your ass. And switching to your teammates just makes it worse to heal yourself, because then your character becomes super stupid as well, and just kind of gets killed. So you're better off just waiting. Unless you're actually dead, then switch, cast revive, go back to your main character. Because trust me, that's the best way to go in this game. So, I think the other guy too, he also had an attack that stunned you, that kind of made you all dizzy. So, I forget if he did have that or not, but the bosses are not hard. There's 2 of them, so once you beat one, it takes like half the health off. The other one's just easy and just simple. And you beat them, and now you're able to go into the tower where the final boss is. So, I would get preparations. I would go back to the armor shop, get the best armor you can find. Not really a must, but you know, it's always good to be well prepared. Because I don't think you want to take the long walk back up the tower, because it is quite a long mission. It's not that hard. You go up, then you're at the final boss. And you kind of get some insight that the girl that was being chased in the opening of the story, I shouldn't even be saying this, but the girl, spoiler alert, the girl who was being chased in the opening of the story, surprisingly, because I wasn't really paying attention to the open part, because I'll say why in part 2 of this, but she's apparently Charlotta's empty shell, and Charlotta's actually a cat, and it's confusing. The cat on the cover here, I was wondering who the hell that was. That's actually Charlotta. Yes, it is confusing. Apparently, when the guy caught her and did all these experiments on her, to make her make crystals. She's able to make crystals out of nothing. And the bad guy can't die. He just comes back to life if he has a crystal. So you can see, he's invincible. So that's why he did this. And Charlotta was Charlotta's soul was turned into a cat. So you go through the story, you fight the boss. And the first part is extremely easy. Walk up, slash a bit. Usually your teammates die, so you don't even have to bother reviving them. But do it anyways, just in case. Revive them, keep on hacking away. 5-10 minutes later, you should be done that part. Second part happens. He starts laughing. He says, as long as I have this, he shows his hand, all like weird and reddish thing. And as long as I have this, I'll never lose. And reaches over to the, Charlotte's kind of like motionless body, and just sucks all the life out of her. Just gathers like 20,000 crystals. Why that many? I don't know. He only needs one, but it just adds more dramaticity. So does that, gets all the crystals. You fight him again, a little harder, but still incredibly easy. You beat it. You see the ending scene, and even though you don't get too much emotional chances, you get attached to the cast. It is a sad ending. I was like, I was pleased with the ending. I won't say what happened because I don't want to ruin it, but the ending was actually kind of nice. After you beat everything, well, I'll let you go on from that, like, see what happens. I don't want to ruin it. Now, in part 2, I'm going to say what I liked and what I didn't like about this game. And just cover some stuff that pissed me off that did it and that kind of stuff. So, stay tuned for part 2. Alright, so welcome back to part 2 of Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles Echos of Time. So, last part I kind of gave you a brief insight of the game and what to do and that kind of stuff. So now, I'll describe what I felt, what I liked, what I didn't like, blah blah blah. So first I'll start with the story. The story wasn't bad because it had a plot. So, you wake up and, you know, it's your birthday, whatever, you have to do your initiation to become a man, that kind of stuff, you have to do your trial. That's pretty good, and then it's just pretty much a way to get you used to how you fight. So, it's okay, because, you know, you don't know how to play, it teaches you how to play, that kind of stuff. So, and you also have an option to do that or not. So once, like, you have to do, like, you know, to get the story to progress, but they give you an option whether to show you how to do this or not, how to fight or not. So, the story's pretty good. You come back, somebody's hurt, you go to help with the girl, and end up putting the whole world in danger. But it would have happened anyways, eventually. Some other idiot would have done it, so. You spend the whole game gathering crystals, probably why it's called Crystal Chronicles, to bring back everybody, but you didn't even know why they disappeared. So you bring back everybody, just to get the stuff you need to go fight the final boss. Whatever his name is. I'm going to try to say it, but, let's see. Final boss is Zarkius. So, I like the idea. You start off kind of easy, you have your main goal, fight the boss, final boss, end game. Pretty decent story plot. Made sense some ways. Now, I'm kind of wondering why it's called Echoes of Time. I was kind of wondering that while I was making the last video and a little bit before. And in between, like, I'm kind of building in a row. After the last video, I went and grabbed a drink. I kind of realized kind of why it's called Echoes of Time. And this part also kind of pissed me off in, you know, Final Fantasies, and pretty much all Final Fantasy games, is that kind of death is kind of like, not really a bad thing, it's pretty much an inconvenience. You know, Final Fantasy X, you can die 1,000 times, and you just get brought back to life. Now, you need to have a summoner to, you know, to send you into the afterlife, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, kind of just, that kind of stuff, you know, just more of inconvenience. But with this one here, they don't stop talking about them being, oh, I'm 1,000 years old, I'm 100 years old, I'm 2,000 years old. It's like, I don't care how old you are. It's like, oh, you can't beat me because I'm 2,000 years old. And Echoes of Time, because the opening scene of the game, when you see that girl getting chased by Lucaris, or whatever his name is, Lucaris, that's like 2,000 years ago, before the game actually starts. Yes, I'm not lying. That was 2,000 years ago. And so, that old guy, he's older than 2,000 years, which for some reason, he's still 2,000 years, which he's like an old man. So how can he be 2,000 years old if he's older than if he looks older than the girl? She's 2,000 years old. She has it just doesn't make sense, that kind of story part there. So the big guy, the old guy, he's 2,000 years old, and the girl, Charlotta, she's 2,000 years old. But when she was killed, she was, I don't know, young, 16, something like that. Maybe I'll say for the sake of the game, she's 20 in there. And the old guy, he's at least 60, 70 years old. So I don't know how they're both 2,000 years old. They could have done a little bit more stuff to that, I don't know. But it kind of confused me. So anyways, that's probably why they call Echoes of Time, because what happens in the past kind of happens in the future, kind of stuff. Because history has a way of repeating itself. That's what I think. If I'm wrong, please enlighten me. Please tell me why it's called that. So, anyway, so I did kind of like the graphics, so they kind of took it from Game Boy, from the DS, because they had the other game for DS too. So they kind of used the same graphics for both, which is okay, I guess. The graphics weren't terrible, which I'm okay with that. But the one thing that pissed me off was, I'll show a picture of this, they have a double screen. So the double screen is, so you know how like on a Nintendo DS you have the two screens, top and bottom? Well, they have it on this Wii game, on this game here, the Wii, but side by side. And in order to make it bigger or smaller, you have to hit the plus and minus button. So hit the minus button, the game you play on, the screen you play on gets bigger. But the screen where all your inventory is, it gets smaller. If you hit the plus button, your inventory screen gets bigger, and your other screen gets smaller. And it wasn't bad, but you're expecting to be playing on a full screen, on your screen, and you're playing on a screen that big. I might as well be playing the DS version. That's pretty much what it was. The reason why you buy the ones for the bigger systems is so you can sit back, on your couch or chair or wherever you're sitting and watch a big screen of it instead of a small screen. That's why you get these. So yes, it was a little bigger, but in the long run, it was a pain in the ass. And you can use your Wii remote to click on what you needed to do. So if I want to go into my inventory, I can just hit 1 or 2 on the thing and instantly go there, or I can use the arrow and do it that way, which that's what I did, because it's kind of hard to move your hand down like this to hit the 1 and 2 button. So that's usually what I did, which is good. But then while you're fighting, if you're, let's say I'm tapping A to attack, and I by accidentally move the cursor over my inventory and hit A there, you will switch, you will do stuff. So I can be in the middle of battle, slashing away, kill my enemies, all of a sudden, boom, I'll switch. And it's like, what the fuck just happened? And for half the game, I thought I was getting like confusion or something on me. But it turned out I was just making a mistake. It happens more than you think, actually. So, and that kind of bugged me like that, because they could have easily had the plus or minus button to just bring you to your inventory screen. Change your magic. Or, see, you can change your magic by hitting the arrow keys. The D-pad. But you can easily do that without having the screen on the side. You can just easily hit down or up, and that would happen. I think Nintendo was just kind of too lazy to change it over to a Wii version, so they kind of just took the DS format and made it on the Wii. That's what I think. Okay, but anyways, So that kind of bugged me. But after you got used to it, it wasn't too bad. But they could have done better with that. So anyways, on to your abilities you get when you kill enough things when you level up. So the abilities you get are pretty cool. The thing is though, you need to hold down a certain button to attack. So with my sword attack, I need to slash and hold A. So your character just stands there. You can move, but you kind of strafe back and forth, back, but you can't move from this kind of look type thing. So your character just kind of stands there like this, kind of, just charging his attack. So your character kind of looks like he's taking a shit, all like, just holding still, and when you attack, okay, so your basic attack does, let's say, at first 30 damage. When you attack, it does 100 damage. So, no, it takes about a little while to charge your attack. But you can't charge it after your combo. You only charge it after your first attack. So, by the time I do 2 combo attacks, I do pretty much 100 damage more than I do waiting for my big attack to happen. And I was like, well, what's the point of this? It should be even stronger. There should be a reason why I'm waiting that long. What's the point of waiting if I can just keep on slashing at you and do even more damage just by slashing than charging? So they could have did a little bit on that power up part, on the skill part, but other than that, it wasn't that bad for the skills. The health bar, everything is easy to read. Half the time I didn't even pay attention. I barely died. Like, I never had to restart the game, pretty much. Like, I could probably beat this game on one character, if I really paid attention. I won't though, not because I'm afraid to do it, it's just because it got kind of boring and don't want to beat it again. So I'm going to jump to the bosses now. So, most Final Fantasy bosses, some of them are pretty difficult, some of them are just like, well, what's the point of that? Like, there's actually some bosses like Final Fantasy X, where all you do is throw a Phoenix down on them and they're instantly dead. Strongest boss, like a strong boss, well, you bring him back to life and he's instantly dead. So, some of them are kind of broken, and in Crystal Chronicles, Echos of Time, they weren't hard. I barely tried. Like, I was fighting a boss, my friend was here, I'm talking to my friend, not even looking at my screen, and I beat the boss. Like, all I see was like a corner of it in my eye, I seen where the guy was, I seen where I was, all I needed to know. I didn't take too much damage, beat the boss, it was just like a random boss encounter, and it wasn't hard. And I was expecting more. I'm glad it didn't have instant death. I think that one of the bosses did have instant death, or just like 300 health off. So long as you were above 300, you pretty much lived, but if you were below, you took like 300 health or damage and probably died. So it was always an instant kill attack, which it's okay, because I don't like instant kill things, like, oh, I'm going to kill all your guys off one blow, and, well, that's it. I hate bosses like that. I don't mind one instant kill, but when you can kill your whole teammates, like everybody, I don't like that. That pisses me off. But you progress through all the things, and all the bosses are easy. Pretty simple. Once you know what you have to do, they have weak spots, but you can pretty much beat every boss without the weak spot. Of course, if you see the weak spot, I would not avoid it. But if you're having a hard time hitting that weak spot, I wouldn't worry about it. You can beat the boss without hitting it. So instead of doing 100 damage, you do like 30 damage. Or instead of doing 100, you might do 10 or 20. May sound less, but it's still easy. So, after you beat out, the bosses were easy. So, I'll get off bosses. So, that's other thing that pissed me off. Where if you play this game, you know what I'm talking about. The scratch tickets. Scratch cards. I didn't know what they were when I read the rule book a little bit. Like, I briefly, how like, most gamers don't even look at this. Or if they do, they just, like, look through, just like, oh, okay. Just look through, just get a rough idea of what you have to do, what's going on, graphics, gameplay, that kind of stuff. So you just skim through. I've seen the cards in one of these pages, but I was like, no, I didn't care. So, the first pretty much bosses you get the card off of is some, like, one of those chipmunk things in the forest. So, I got one of the cards. I was like, oh, cool. I got, like, a monster card, because I didn't really see the scratch card, I thought it was a monster card. So once you hit the town, you can scratch the cards. No, one little mistake and you're fucked. And it took me a little while to understand what I had to do. And even once I did, it was kind of hard, because you have to sit still with holding your Wii remote, aiming it at the TV, and you have like 20 seconds to scratch like 20 or 10, 20, 30 of little squares. Like the first part, you're aiming at scratching squares in order to get the ability to double jump. So, yeah, they give you abilities. So I'm scratching the little square, and after a little while, I managed to scratch it and get double jump. So I thought, oh, right, awesome, and now I can start double jumping for good. So every one of your teammates gets the ability to double jump. Okay, awesome. I go to a dungeon, because I activated in the town, not thinking, didn't know, and I enter the dungeon, go to double jump, you can't double jump. So, taking all that time, killing the monsters, aiming at the thing, though your arm gets shaky after a while, kind of trying to scratch them, because you aim at it, and you have to scratch like you do, to scratch something. And half the time, you would just start scratching random things, you don't even try and you fail. And after a while, your hand gets shaky because you're holding your arm up for so long, trying to scratch these tickets in 20 seconds. So I was like, wait, so what is the point of this? What is the point of these scratch tickets? For everybody to get double jump, and, well, not being able to double jump to the whole game. What's the point of that? Pissed me off. If they wanted to have it like that, they should have did it so only one person gets double jump permanently. Instead of making it time and pissing people off. Cause I didn't even bother doing that once I realized what I had to do. After I scratched them all tickets I had like 2 or 3 winners. The rest of them I failed, not even realizing I failed. So, I hated the idea of the scratch tickets. They pissed me off. So, as I said before, some of the story parts pissed me off. So that the missions, like the one mission I mentioned in part 1, like the little puzzle where I put the jar into the hole, push the box in the hole, like over the hole, so the jar held at the giant box. Pull the lever, rises. You do what you have to do. That part kind of pissed me off. Only way that would actually happen, if you actually do that, is to do it like I did, and just try something random. That's the only reason how I figured that out, because I just tried something random. The other thing I hated was how stupid your teammates were. Like, they were the dumbest fuckheads in the game. Because you had to go to town and make your own army, which is cool. You have to make your own team and pick what members you want in your team. So I picked one of each. I was the human dude. So they have like a list of tribes in here. I'll go to the list of tribes. So the Clavats, that's what I chose. They're beginners, so they're pretty good with swords and axes, that kind of stuff. So I picked him. So after that, I made the Ukes, Selkies, and Littleties, or whatever how they're called. So I made one on each, to experience everybody. And then so they're so stupid. Like, I've literally fought the boss battle. I've literally fought hordes of monsters, and my teammates set on their appropriate settings, just stood there and watched me fight. I'm down to like I have to kill like 10 monsters in a row not healing. I looked down at my health, I'm pretty low on health. Instead of healing me at least, I have to heal myself. And they're just standing there all like, doing that kind of stuff. And I'm like, well, thanks for the help. I'm slaving, trying to kill these guys, and they're just enjoying the show. All they didn't have was a freaking cup of coffee in their hand. Well, I was actually expecting one of them just to pull out a cup of coffee and just start, well, just pull out a random cup and just start drinking. Or clapping, watching me fight. They did nothing. And then let's say you're pushing a block, they would actually start pushing it back at you. So you just sit there pushing nothing. You're trying to push it, they're pushing it back at you. That happens more than you would think. And it just pisses me off because you're trying to do a mission, and they'll just stand in your way. So, and then they'll start walking towards you because they walk towards you. And just by walking into an item without even grabbing it, you can push an item. Yes. Yeah, it's stupid that way. So, they're literally pushing the box back at me. So you have to let go of the box, and letting go of the box is more of a chore. Because you let go of the back, the guy grabs on again. Let go again, he grabs on again. It's like, stop grabbing onto the fucking box. So you finally can get let go. You hit the C button and get all your enemies behind you. I mean, all your teammates behind you. Start pushing, do what you have to do. And they're just in the way. They're more of a pain. But they're just more frustrating. If you could command them, so it'll be like attack, defend, wait, stay. Because they're so fucking stupid. Let's say you jump on a platform that moves, that's just only big enough for you. They'll run off the edge chasing after you. My guy literally died running off the edge. I'm not kidding. They literally walked off the edge multiple times and killed themselves. I'm like, what? After the first time, maybe the computer should go, you know what, I should not walk off the edge. But multiple times to kill yourself. And you should be able to say wait, instead of just walk off the edge. If you walk towards them, they back away from you. So even grabbing them to do stuff is a chore. Because they don't let you pick them up. They'll run away from you. So, yeah, so that was the main thing that I didn't like, was just the scratch tickets and your teammates. Because they're just dumb as fuck. You would have been better off probably going to war with a pack of sticks to fight as your teammates. The sticks would have probably been smarter. But if they would have did it, so at least you could control them. So attack, so they'll go in and fight for you, defend, wait, stay, that kind of stuff, whatever you wanted, they should have done that. Or at least be able to select them without having to change your character. So go to one individual guy, pick what you want him to do. Go to, let's say, whoever you picked as a teammate, stay. Go to another guy, stay. Go to another guy, come. And each of them should have a different settings. Separate commands. So that's pretty much the end that kind of I liked and didn't like pretty much. There's still one more thing. I'm trying to think of what it was. I had it in my head the whole time, but I kind of forgot. But yeah, so the game's not bad. I paid like 15. Well, actually, I paid $13.50 because I had a special card, deal card. So I was pretty happy with the $13.50. It's still probably kind of high. Maybe $10. Maybe if you spent $10 for it, it's not bad. Maybe if I went to very hard, it would have been more difficult. But I just found it kind of just boring and kind of just dragged on. It was short, but it felt like it took like a week. It took like a day and a half. And it was almost torturous. It was fun. It was fun, but after the first maybe hour, it gets boring. A little boring. Then eventually it gets frustrating. Then it just gets like, oh my god. But I was halfway through and I wanted to see the end. You know what? The ending was kind of worth it. It was a nice ending. A little sad. It was sad, but it was a happy sadness. And I'm not going to say what happens. I would play it and experience yourself. But, all in all, game's not bad. So, up next, right now I'm playing Tales of Vesperia for the Xbox 360. I'm almost done that. So I'll be making a review on that very shortly. I'm also playing RPG Maker 3 for the PS2. So I'll be making a Let's Play of my own homemade game. That's going to probably take a little while, because the game's not even made. I'm still working on it, but that's something to look forward to. And shortly, I'll be playing the next part to the Crystal Chronicles series, the Crystal Bearer. Now, I heard this game was kind of terrible from some people. I haven't beat it yet. I haven't even played it yet. I got it the same day I got this one. So, it doesn't have a manual with it. Because I bought these used at Entertainment Overload. But the prices are good, so that's why I go there. And I brought in 40 games, so technically I got this for nothing. I just brought in games, so I traded like 40 games for 15 of the games. So, yeah. So I'll be back with a review on Tales of Vesperia and a bunch of other stuff I decided to play. I'm still making the Mario series. I'll probably have them all posted before I post this. But in case I'm not, I'm still making them. Don't worry about that. It's still being made. When I'm done playing it, I'll make a review. I'm still playing Pokemon Diamond. Kind of taking a break on that, but I'll get to that as soon as possible. So, thank you for watching, and I'll be back some other time.